After nearly 5 months in office, I think it's now becoming a little clearer that our education policies are being guided by the 3 coalition principles of freedom, fairness and responsibility. And they're also being driven by, as Philippa says, by evidence from the most successful education systems in the world. And the OECD, that John is going to be working for, has established beyond doubt certain common characteristics of those jurisdictions, in particular autonomy at school level, and also rigorous external assessment. And the other common characteristic of those successful jurisdictions is that they have the most highly qualified teachers. Singapore, South Korea, and Finland are the countries most often cited. And Finland in particular recruits its teachers from the top 10% of graduates. And Sir Michael Barber, in his study from McKinsey, found that nothing is more important in education than attracting the best people into teaching. The principle that giving schools autonomy raises standards is demonstrated not just by evidence from abroad, but also by evidence in this country. The city technology colleges, introduced in the late 1980s by the last Conservative government, have been a huge success. Now the proportion of pupils eligible for free school meals in CTCs is more than twice as high as for maintained schools, and in those 15 schools are the highest performing schools in the country. The Harris City Academy at Crystal Palace was recently judged by Ofsted, for example, as the first school to be perfect under the new Ofsted regime, outstanding in all categories, and 99% of its pupils achieved 5 good GCSEs, 82% including English and maths. And between 2001 and 2008, academies almost doubled the number of pupils achieving 5 good GCSEs, including English and maths, and 86% of academies are judged by Ofsted to be good or outstanding in terms of leadership and management. And when you look at some of the specific examples, you can see this in practice. And this year, Burlington Dane Academy in White City, part of the Art Academy chain, raised its GCSE results by a staggering 20 percentage points in just 1 year. And it's the autonomy and the freedom that heads are given to shape their own destiny and their own school that is key. And this government trusts teachers to control the classroom and trusts parents to choose schools. And the Academies Act allows more schools to benefit from the freedoms of academy status, including for the first time primary schools and special schools. In May 2010 this year, there were 203 academies as a result of 13 years of this policy. And this September, 100 more academies came on stream, and each month, between 20 and 30 outstanding schools are converting to academy status. So we're also focusing heavily on bringing new leadership and academy status to the poorest performing schools in the country. And we're making it much easier for parents, teachers and education providers to set up new schools so that there is a real choice in every area. We're placing greater trust in professionals to give teachers more freedom to decide how to teach. And we're reducing not reducing democracy, goodness me. maybe later. We're reducing bureaucracy so that schools can get on with their core business. In just 1 year, under the last government, the department produced over 6,000 pages of guidance for schools, more than twice the length of the complete works of Shakespeare, and slightly less illuminating. Outstanding schools will be freed from inspection to refocus Ofsted's resources on those schools that are coasting or struggling, and which are failing to deliver the best quality education to their students. And we'll slim down the national curriculum to ensure that pupils have the knowledge they need to, at each stage of their education, and restore parity between our curriculum and qualifications and the best that the world has to offer, whether that's in Massachusetts, Singapore, Finland, Hong Kong, or Alberta. But how teachers teach, the pedagogy they use, is for their professional judgment, based on the evidence available. And embedded in the reams of paper that descend onto the desks of teachers is prescriptive detail of how to teach, usually based on a particular ideological approach to teaching. And it's that we will strip away. we will reform league tables so that parents have the reassurance that they need that their child is progressing, and we'll also restore confidence in our exam system. Pupils should be entered for qualifications that are in their best interest and not in the interest of the school trying to push up its league table ranking. And we'll also open up qualifications that have unfairly been closed off to pupils in state schools, such as the IGCSE, to offer greater choice and to have the same choice as pupils in independent schools. And we'll support teachers by giving them the powers they need to deal effectively with poor behaviour. And we're working to ensure that teachers are protected from the professional and social humiliation of false accusations. 1 in 5 secondary schools are judged by Ofsted to have behaviour that is no more than satisfactory or inadequate, and that's 677 secondary schools. And the NESUWT estimates that there's one verbal or physical assault in our schools every 7 minutes. And the ATL union, and Mary Grisham's here, found that 38% of teachers had dealt with physical aggression during the year. And the latest TELUS survey, I think which you referred to, Philippa, shows that 28.8% of children say they've been bullied in the last year, and almost half of children have experienced bullying at some point whilst at school. So we are determined to tackle poor behaviour in schools, and until we tackle that problem, it will be virtually impossible for any government to raise academic standards, which is why one of our earlier announcements was to extend teachers' power of search, to issue shorter and clearer guidance on disciplinary powers, to abolish the statutory 24-hour notice rule for detentions, and to try and protect teachers from malicious prosecutions. We want to attract more great teachers into the profession, to enhance the prestige and esteem of the teaching profession, and to improve teacher training and continuous professional development. And we've already announced the expansion of the excellent Teach First programme. We also want their sibling organisations, teaching leaders and future leaders, to do more to attract talented people into education, including those who've had successful careers in other fields. And we want to introduce incentives to attract the best science and maths graduates into teaching. And we'll also reform teacher training to shift trainee teachers out of college and into the classroom. And we're also intending to end the rule which limits how many teachers can be trained in schools, and those rules which limit the ability of head teachers and heads of department to observe teachers at work. Nothing should get in the way of raising the effectiveness and professionalism of our teachers. So as a government, our driving ambition in education policy is to close the attainment gap between those from wealthy and poor backgrounds. The chance of a child who is eligible for free school meals getting 5 good GCSEs, including English and maths, are less than 1/3 of those for children from better off families. And 42% of pupils eligible for free school meals did not achieve a single GCSE above a grade D in 2008. And I don't believe that less able children, or those from disadvantaged backgrounds, are not capable of having a strong academic education, or indeed that their parents necessarily hold lower ambitions for their children. And I absolutely agree with Alan Milburn in his speech to the National Education Trust in March, when he said it is sometimes argued that parents in the most disadvantaged areas are less aspirational for their children than those in better off areas. And the figures on school appeals repudiate such assumptions, with a large number of parents in disadvantaged parts of the country using the appeal system to try to get their children out of poorly performing schools and into better ones. And he's absolutely right. It's a natural instinct for parents to want the best for their children, better opportunities that than they have themselves. And Britain's educational problems are not primarily the result, in our view, of a lack of private aspiration, but rather the state's failure to provide enough good schools. It's socially unfair and economically damaging. And when you look at this government's education policies, from the Academies programme to free schools, to the reform of reading, to the reform of the curriculum and the qualification system, our overriding objective is to close that attainment gap. Thank you very much.